They always ask me, when did you have your moment?
Right.
And that moment was when I lost my hair. That's when I had my moment. I didn't cry when they told me that I had cancer. I didn't cry when I started chemo or anything like that. I was more gung-ho on fighting and winning this battle than I was so worried about the fact that I had cancer. But it was when I went through my second treatment of chemo and my hair started falling out, that's when it was that physical sign that I'm sick.
Hey guys, it's your girl, Naturally May. Thank you for tuning in again. So today is an extra special episode. It's a little different than we normally do. I'm not just gonna sit in the camera and talk to you about hair products. This month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And in honor of that, I wanted to take the time to talk to a very special guest today. I am speaking with the lovely Gimika Gibbs. And she is a beautiful breast cancer survivor. We speak to breast cancer, we've heard breast cancer survivors' journeys, and we talk about all of the things that you've gone through medically and with your health. But a lot of times we not only talk about the loss of your hair, but what happens during that growth process and growing it back, and what is that like, and what does that mean? We have so many meanings about our hair, especially as Black women. Well, what happens when you have to grow it back from a diagnosis like cancer? So that's going to be the premise of the show today. So hi, Gimika.
Hi, Nay.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this. I really appreciate it.
You're
and
welcome.
you and I have known each other for a few years through work. We worked together, and I kind of watched your journey from the outside. Because I remember when you got your diagnosis, and I remember when word traveled through the office.
Yes.
So before we get into the diagnosis and how that happened in your whole cancer journey, tell me a little bit about you and your hair pre-diagnosis. So were you natural?
No.
No?
Pre-diagnosis, I was addicted to creamy crack.
Okay. As a lot of
As
us
they
were.
say, yes. So since I was a teenager, I was relaxing my hair on a regular basis. And so that's how I wore my hair as long as I can remember. At least from age maybe 14, 15, on up till I was diagnosed at 37. And so I was a relaxer every 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
Getting a relaxer. And as soon as I saw any little bit of new growth, it was time to get a relaxer.
During that time, especially here in Atlanta, that was around the time when the whole natural hair movement became big and we started seeing a lot of women. So you never...
And I never ever said, oh, I want to go natural.
Why
I
not?
had no idea of what my natural hair even looked like at that point, because I had no concept. I knew growing up I had the little pigtails, but other than that, I didn't know what my natural hair even looked like. So, and I just, I guess society makes you think that the straight hair is better hair, and that the natural hair, the kinky, coily hair is not the way that society saw it as beautiful. So I was addicted to what society deemed beautiful, which was the straight hair.
And you had long, pretty hair
Yes,
too.
I did. Yeah, so it's always, when you grow up and they say, oh, who are you talking about? It's like, oh, the light-skinned girl with the long, pretty hair. That's how, most people describe me. Or you would describe someone, oh, the girl with the, the nappy hair or something like that. Honestly, that's how we describe people. Or we used to describe people.
Right.
Natural wasn't as acceptable or as popular back then. And so the relaxer was what I did.
What you did. So before we go into the actual journey, so with that being said, we already know that you had long straight hair, and we know that that was kind of your beauty identifier. So take me to when you got the diagnosis.
When I received the diagnosis, it was after I detected a lump. I detected a lump in my breast, and at first I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just, me feeling something crazy. And so I waited a couple of weeks, and then I felt a hardening on my breast, and that's when I told my husband, like, hold on, something's not right. So I made an appointment with my my OBGYN, and they did the normal breast exam, and they immediately said, no, we're sending you for a mammogram. They called, and they fit me in the next day. I was there all day, and then they did a mammogram, they did an ultrasound, and when they did the ultrasound, they called the doctor in and said, hey, we want you to look at this. And so the doctor was like, and I'm like, what does mean? And then they were like, well, we see calcifications, and I'm like, what is that? I had to Google it when I left. So when I Googled it, I saw that it was potential. If they saw calcifications, that it was potential breast cancer. And so, but Google will have you killing yourself.
Yeah, you be dead.
So,
in 2 weeks,
so you can't always go by what you see or read on Google. And so after that, they called and they said that I had to go in for a biopsy. And so I went in for a biopsy, and that's when the results came back that it was breast cancer. What shocked me the most is because I detected the lump, I figured that it was in an earlier stage, like, stage 0, stage 1. When I found out that it was stage 3, that was shocking to me. And they told me that it had already spread to my lymph nodes, and I needed to go through more testing to see if it was anywhere else in my body. Thank God it wasn't. But even it being stage 3, meant that I needed to start chemo immediately. And so the initial diagnosis, I was more rah-rah, like, okay, let me do what I have to do to fight this. I'm going to beat this. They always ask me, when did you have your moment?
Right.
And that moment was when I lost my hair. That's when I had my moment. I didn't cry when they told me that I had cancer. I didn't cry when I started chemo or anything like that. I was more gung-ho on fighting and winning this battle than I was so worried about the fact that I had cancer. But it was when I went through my second treatment of chemo and my hair started falling out, that's when it was that physical sign that I'm sick. And it was, like you said, that was the one thing that people could identify me with, the light-skinned girl with the long hair. And now my hair is coming out in clumps, and I'm sitting at work putting my fingers through my hair.
Really?
And I used to sit and put my hair on my desk. And when I ran my fingers through my hair, I used to have the hair in my hand, and I would sit it on my desk. And my coworkers would be like, Gimika, stop, and even when I combed my hair, it would come out in clumps in there. So I would then pull my hair back because it was coming out back here. So I would pull my hair back in a ponytail. And so that's when I started wearing my hair back more.
As you started to lose the hair and it's starting to hit you, okay, yeah, I really am sick. This is like a manifestation. I can see that I'm sick now. So did you make a decision to cut it? Did you do a big chop, or did you just let it fall?
I cut it. I had asked my husband if he would cut it, and he was like, nope. And I was pissed because I'm like, how dare you? I need you right now. You're supposed to be there for me. And at that moment, I didn't realize how much cancer impacts your family as well. And although, he's not one to show his emotions, the diagnosis, for me, receiving a cancer diagnosis also impacted him as well. And so to have to shave my head was too much for him. And I realized that later on. But initially my reaction was, how dare you not be there for me? But cancer doesn't just impact the person who receives the diagnosis. The people who love that person are also impacted as well.
And they've got to watch the hair fall.
Exactly.
They've got to see that, okay, she's not the normal wife. They're not mom. She's sick.
Yep. And so he went to work, and the kids went off to school, and I went in there, and I took the scissors, and I took the clippers, and I cut my hair first with the scissors, and then I took the clippers, and I shaved my head.
So you had like a Sinale for Napoli ever like a moment. Did you ever seen that?
Yes, I have.
So you had that moment?
Yeah, but it wasn't like
it wasn't
the
that
way
pretty?
No, it wasn't. Well, I didn't cry in the mirror. It's after I cut my hair. It's different to see yourself with a whole head of hair and then look at yourself without hair at all. And so I sat there, and I mean, not only was my hair falling out, my eyebrows were thinning, my eyelashes. It's not just the hair on your head. It's the hair everywhere on your body that you start losing. And so I'm looking in the mirror at myself with no hair, thinning eyebrows, sunken cheeks because, I was going through chemo. And chemo also, I don't want to say it made me look ashy, but there was like a tone to my skin that was different. And so I looked at myself, and that was when I had my moment. I sat in the floor and I balled up into a ball, and I cried. And that was the one time, or the first time, I guess you can say, where it hit me that I had cancer. And it was basically that I went from living a normal, what you would say is a normal life, not having any pains or anything. The only indication that I had cancer was that lump that I found in my breast. And so In a matter of a few weeks, I went from having a normal life to now I'm taking chemo, and it was hard to understand why they had to pump me with toxins and make me sick to make me better. And so I realized then that I did not have control over what was happening to me. And I sat there in the bathroom and I cried like a baby, and then it was just that moment, just me and God, really. And I realized that, okay, God, I'm not in control of this. The doctors are not giving me a guarantee. They can't guarantee me anything, but you can. And that was my moment, I guess you could say my God moment, where it was like, okay, the only guarantee I had was that God was with me. And that whatever his will was for my life at that time, it would manifest. And so I had to trust the process. And so at that time, we were having a Bible study. And there was a song that played at the Bible study that we would play. And it was about helping yourself see yourself the way God sees you. And so I started thinking about that song. And then I looked at myself in the mirror, and it was like, okay, this is the new normal for me. And it was just, you get so caught up in society and what society thinks about you. And at that moment, I looked at myself and I could tell that I had cancer. And I, said that I was going to always stay positive. And so that's what I did. I just started feeding myself with positive thoughts. And it wasn't, oh, you're going to fight this. It was, I am fighting this. And it wasn't that, oh, you're going to be healed. It was, I am healed. And it wasn't that you're going to beat this. It's, I've already beat it. And so that's what I had to keep telling myself, and keep telling myself, and surrounding myself with people who believe that also. Like my dad, and he's probably gonna watch this, but my dad would be like, oh, I don't know what I would do if, anything happened to you. I couldn't have that conversation with anybody. I needed people to say, nothing's going to happen to you. Even if it did end up turning out to be something different, I needed to just believe that. I needed to hold on to that, because you can lose your mind. And once you lose your mind, you lose everything else. And so that's the one thing I did have control over, was the way that I thought about it and the way that I looked at it. And so even though that was my defining moment of realizing that I had cancer, it was also that moment where I realized that there are very few things about it that I could control, but what I could control was my faith, and what I could control were my thoughts and how I looked at it.
So let me ask you this question. You're bald, you've cut your hair, you're accepting what the situation is, you're changing your thought pattern, you're changing your mentality. Was there a point where you were able to look at yourself bald and see yourself as beauty? Like, was there a point where that beauty image changed in your mind?
Not too long after that. I want to say maybe the next day, once I got over the initial shock of it all, and I realized that, okay, I was blessed with knowledge knots. That's what I call them. I have, a knot here, a knot here. A knot here, I call them knowledge knots.
Because everybody had
my
that
head shape. Yeah, my head shape, I have, my son has the same head shape. And I call them knowledge knots. And I realized that, wow, I got a head shape like my son. And that's when I realized also that I look a lot like my daddy.
Okay.
And so
you were able to see things in your face that you weren't, because your hair was covering them.
And I also, it comes a point in time where you have to realize the inner you. And that was when it was like, okay, it's no longer about me having long hair. Now it's about what's within me that now has to come out. And so it was like, okay, you get knocked down with things, but you can't always stay down. So it was like one of them things like, okay, this is what it is, and I have to accept it. And so it wasn't too long after that I shared the picture on Facebook of when I cut my hair.
I remember that.
And the response to it was just amazing, the way
so
that
gorgeous,
everyone,
Gimika.
and it was like, okay, now my natural features are coming out. And now I have to take a look at myself and how God created me. I'm the only me that he created. It's just, there's people that might be like me, have similar characteristics, but there's only one me. And so that was, you just come to a point where you just accept what's happening and you just keep it moving. You can't wallow in pity, because that will start to overcome you. So it was just one of those moments that, I got over the shock, I had my moment, and it was like, okay, now pick yourself up and let's keep on fighting.
How did the husband and the kids take when they saw you bald? Because if it's a shock for you and you bald up and it's crazy, it's like a moment for you. How was their moment? How did they handle that change in your physical appearance now?
So when I cut it all off, they were all at school and at work.